talk about the Universal Process Orchestrator. We will have a look dedicatedly about Camunda Automation Platform, 8 about what's coming in the next release, and the roadmap outlook. And we will do the same for Camunda Automation Platform 7. Good. Talking about the vision of the Universal Process Orchestrator, not sure if you have heard the term yet. That's a term we introduced now with Camunda 8 because we think this is we believe that this is where we go. This is our vision. This is what companies need, right? So before that, we've been an IBPMS company and did a lot of business process management tools, but we've been there with other players which are offering these big suites with a lot of tools. And we see our sweet spot as a process orchestrator for complex workflows. So that's the reason why we're going into this direction of the Universal Process Orchestrator. And the Universal Process Orchestrator allows process automation. And process automation is key to digital transformation, as you all know, but it's difficult. And the most valuable process are your key process, your mission critical process, and they are A, hard to understand, and B, difficult to implement. So what are we doing is we help you with easier integration in and adding to what we already do with all of this BPMN, DMN modeling stuff, but going helping our customers and users to orchestrate the different things to implement and automate their mission critical business processes. That's the high level story. So let's look a little bit into the details. Why is it so complicated to automate processes? The majority of customers have more than 5 endpoints, and the majority of these endpoints are not nice, fancy microservices, but there are a lot of legacy or homegrown systems, and you require special knowledge to integrate them. Second one, the typical struggle, which increased nowadays. In the past, you had like the business and the IT, but nowadays you have all the designers involved, you have QA involved, because you're getting more and more to this. You want to sell this customer experience. You want to build processes that have a nice customer experience. So the level increased a lot, what people expecting from, because they're knowing all these consumer tools, but they are requesting this now for all processes. And that's why we have more and more people that have to collaborate on these processes. And as we're automating more and more processes, we also see that the requirements to IT, the scalability, the resilience is growing as we have more instances, as it's more getting critical if you have downtimes. And customers don't accept it anymore. They expect the systems to be there 24/7, not like in the past where during working hours or something. That's not the world we are living in anymore. Good. So the mission at Camunda, we have helped organizations all over the globe transform their complex end-to-end business process into seamless customer experience. We have some examples here. All around the world, over the globe. This is, for example, the US Department of Veteran Affairs. They increased their automation rate by 65%, and they reduced the time for processing claims by 33%. We have 24-hour fitness, which is like one of these examples where you see where scale can go. They have like 800 process models and 230 million process instances daily. And as a third, one is the telecom. They have like a landscape full of RPA bots, and they have to orchestrate them. They had challenges with all the RPA bots to maintain them, to keep them running, and now they are orchestrating them with Camunda to have a much better overview and introducing business processes along with steps automated by the RPA bots. Good. Summarizing it on one slide. Camunda, the Universal Process Orchestrator, our vision is to span processes between people, systems, and devices. to power you to automate any process anywhere, which allows your digital company to have a better customer experience, to have a shorter time to value, to have more agility, and increased operational efficiency. We do this with also in C8 as we did in C7 with open standards, so BPMN and DMN. We give you the flexibility to use the preferred languages and tools for the developers. And we allow more and more endpoints to be integrated. That was already possible with C7, but we're going the next step, and you will see this in a second with C8, with the connectors component. Good. Coming to the roadmap side, to the C8 side, what are the themes we are going to invest? Which directions do we head with our product? And we figured out these 5 themes. So the first one is developer productivity. So how much effort do I have to invest to get from a requirement to a functionality on a production system? And in our opinion, that starts with making the process, drawing the process, debugging the process. So far, debugging was directly in Eclipse with tools on the coding tools in your IDE, but we will take the debugging earlier in the process. So we will have debugging directly on the BPMN models in the web modeler. Then data handling. So far, data handling was up to you in C7. We will have data handling efficiently in the upcoming versions in C8. So how to map data, how to handle data. Of course, not all of the data, as you know, process shouldn't contain too much big data objects, but the data objects that are important, or the data fields that are important to control the process should be in the process, and we will help you to handle these data efficiently. Third one on developer productivity is that we really believe that processes, decisions, and forms, they belong together. So we will improve how these things are interacting, how they are deployed together, how they are developed together. Next big theme, collaboration. As already mentioned, nowadays it's getting more and more that you have experts from different departments involved into the development. So it's more and more important to have this collaboration. So first direction we want to go here to have really a project object established. We currently have some projects in Cavemo, we have some projects in Optimize, but they are not yet aligned. So we want to have like one project structure, which allows you to structure all of your assets of your business solution. Similar thing to roles and permissions. You have currently the tools, certain permissions and roles are set in one tool, certain permissions are set in other tools. But if you have more and more people using the platform and working on the platform, you will have the challenge that you have to administrate them, and you don't want to do it in every tool by them all. You want to have it at one point. And last point for the collaboration is product lifecycle, right? You start with a process solution, you model a model, you automate it, you bring it in production, you're monitoring it. But this is not the end of the life cycle, right? This is just like a kid is born. It's there, but you have to raise it. So you're going to improve it over time. You have another iteration, you have feedback involved. And at the end, at a certain time, you take it to Crave. And that's also part of the life cycle. But covering the life cycle and managing it will be part of our, or is part of our product direction. I already mentioned connectivity, and there is a component that's currently as a developer's preview available, which is called connectors. And connectors consists of several parts. One part is connectors out of the box. So easy connectors like a REST, and we just released now a Slack connector, are directly offered by Camunda for easy process automation projects. But we also offer the integration framework, which allows then you to build reusable connectors for your homegrown systems. As we know, over time, if you get it into a big company, it's getting more and more connectors, and it's getting a little bit messy. So we also will invest into tools for the competence center, the Center of Excellence here, COE, to manage this ecosystem. Something like an app store you can imagine. Not yet sure. It's themes. We don't know how this is looking exactly in the end in the product, but these are the topics we believe in that we want to go forward with. Good. Talking about cloud operations must scale. It must be secure, and we want to have low latencies. What's also important in such a complex stack is root cause analysis. So we want to offer tools to really find the root cause in these complex stacks. And security is always an issue. So managing security is also one of the key targets for cloud operations. Talking about mainly optimize, easy analysis. We will further invest to make optimize more customizable, easier to use. When you implement a process, you know it's fun. Like, what's the motivation? It's fun, but it always costs money, right? And normally you also have to justify to the business why you spend the money on that. So we'll help with defining business goals, but also alerting on business goals to make it more transparent how the money is invested and why it's good to invest it in process automation. And then we will add all this nice world of AI solutions. We will help you with intelligent recommendations. So we will see how we can, with AI, give you recommendations about process improvements, and then you can adjust your process according to these recommendations. Good. There's a slightly changed release cadence to Camunda 8. So the last release was April 2022. We released 8.0. From now on, we will take the same cadence for releasing for Camunda 8 as we do it for Camunda 7. So we will have a minor release every 6 months. We have previews once a month and patch versions. And we differentiate now between the main core components, which exactly follow this release cadence, but have another category which is called process experience components. And that's only in the SaaS version, but it allows us to continuously deliver new features in web modeler, console, and connectors. Good. Let's have a look what's in the next release. So Camunda 8.1 is coming in October. So we will have the different components: automate, connectors, modeler, core cloud, core security, and optimize. In automate, we will allow to execute decisions, DMN decisions, also outside of processes. We allow to delete processes and decision definitions. And we enable the well-known modification functionality we have in C7. For connectors, we will start with very widely used technologies. We will have a Slack connector, a G Drive connector, and a Lambda connector. And we provide connector templates, which allows you to define like this templates you have on the side in a model, like which fields you want to configure for a certain connector, which in combination with the connector SDK allows you then to implement your own connectors and make them easily configurable in the modeler. We start with inbound connectors, and you will see on the roadmap, outbound connectors is the next step there. On the modeler side, we will bring web modeler to self-managed, a preview version. We, in the spirit of developer productivity, we will support you with the field expressions. So we will have an editor with code completion, and we extend the functionality of the forms. And we introduce, you already can see it if you go to BPMN.io, the so-called modeling actions. It's like a tool palette which improves the usability. So if you model like a first BPMN symbol, you directly get shown like what's next to model, which improves the usability a lot. For core cloud, we will release OpenShift and AWS AKS support. For core security, we will allow hot backups and SOC 2 Type 1, which is a regulatory topic for compliance, which a lot of customers are looking for and users, and token-based authentication, which then allows you to authentify between different components. With Optimize, we will support the ML-ready dataset, which allows then data scientists to use the data we collected in Optimize to be used for AI use cases. So this gives a very first step into the direction of AI to so people can implement their own use cases in the first step before we then start to implement certain use cases on our side. We will improve the integration of DMN. So far, processes and DMNs are separated in Optimize, but we will combine them so you can easily navigate from a process definition to a DMN, which is executed in the context of the process. There are certain improvements things like process onboarding, so quickly creating a process digest, which then gives you the KPIs in an email. So you can receive an email once a month if you're the process owner of a certain process to know where the KPIs of your process are going. And then some permission topics, like one is to restrict data export and one is to have read-only users to avoid that data is taken unwantedly from the system. And to improve the connectivity or the integration with other tools, we will implement the Open API specification also for the Optimize services. Good. Let's look a little bit more into the future. We just call it themes, but the themes for Q4 and Q1 is for the C8 core components, automate, cloud, and security. We will work on version migrations and additional BPMN events like signal event, escalation event. On the cloud core side, we will start to support Azure AKS, and we will go into SOC, the second compliance level. On the modeler side, we will enhance modeling, so starting to support project and lifecycle management. Some improvement features like conversions. So you can, for example, convert certain activities in your process, your market, and you can convert it to a sub-process. And we will start to give the debugging function, which is currently already available. We called it linking in the past, but have more helpful warnings to help newbies to really understand like what's the impact they are modeling and give them hints how to model a correct BPMN diagram. For connectors, we go into the inbound world. So outbound is that we are calling a system. Inbound is that we are called by a system. And then the ability to share connectors in an open source fashion. For Optimize, one big topic is cross-product integration. So you can easily navigate between the different components like the modeler and Optimize and console. And in general, we want to make it easier to create dashboards and reports with less clicks. So we will redesign how things in Optimize are created. Good. Jumping into the Camunda 7 world. Important to know, oops, that was too quick. Important to know is that we are committed to Camunda 7, so we have the same size development team still behind Camunda 7 as we had before Camunda 8, and we will proceed in the next 5 years in a similar manner than we did in the last time. So we will implement new features. We will fix critical bugs and care about security patches, and we will maintain supported environments. We also are having already plans what we do after this 5 years. There will be a long-term support. The terms are not yet not written down, but we have it internally, and we're discussing this now with first customers, how this could look like, but there will be extended long-term support for Camunda 7. Good. Looking on the roadmap, it's for the release coming up now, we will focus on safe batch operations. So we see a lot of instances, tons of instances in operations, and dealing with tons of instances is always complicated. And we have a very powerful, and you're most likely all aware of it, we have powerful batch operations, but the usability is not designed in a way that it's safe. So it's very easy to restart all of your currently already ended processes. So what we are doing is we are changing these interactions, how you define the batch jobs in a way that they are safe. So for example, the happy path is not that you starting the batch job. The happy path is that you have to wisely decide that you want to start it. So if you have two buttons, one is back and one is forth, we would mark the back one. Also making you more aware of which are the selected instances, things like that. Also, we will improve on the batch operations overview. So currently it's difficult to see, for example, who started the batch jobs. And if you're using it extensively, you have a lot of batch jobs running in parallel. And we spoke to users, and their best practice was starting batch jobs as long as the problem is fixed, which is of course not the idea. And then we asked why they're doing it, is that we can't find the old batch jobs we started. So we will improve there. Then we have a lot of smaller changes. So we extend the logging context to give you more context about the log entries. We will display removal time for instances in the cockpit, which allows them to more quickly see like when this instance will be removed. We have a task. We will on the run distribution. This is our default distribution. It's a small improvement that currently when you get into run and you start it up, you don't have filters defined in the task list. So we will create them by default. One thing we heard from customers that we don't give enough detailed error codes to the external worker. So certain errors you can just solve by restarting them. And with the given error code, you can from the external task you can just retry it. So we will have a section about different error codes describing which one can be tested to restart to make the system more resilient. We will have extension on the task interface to get all tasks after a specific date. We looked into how to monitor C7 with Prometheus. It's partly already possible, but we did a deep investigation how to connect to Prometheus. Then we working on logging levels on the BPMN stack trace, so extend that you have more possibilities to define a logging level, and have one for Tomcats if you're running it in a multi-instant, not a multi-engine environment, that you can see from which Tomcat distribution the log entry was written. So we will add that information. For the next, we currently discussing the topic data management. So what's already committed for next is that we will have historic cleanup management in cockpit. Then a dedicated setting for cleanup jobs running on the database. So you have the normal worker settings where you can make certain configuration about restarting processes, but we will have that one separated then for the cleanup jobs. And very deep in the roots, we will define due date for restarting expired jobs. So when you start a batch jobs, that he is applying a different algorithm on the restarting than the default restarting thresholds you can define. On the environment side, big things are support for IBM WebSphere, Liberty, Postgres SQL, Spring Boot 2.7, and we're getting into the world of Docker, so you can use your fancy M1 chip or M2, depend what MacBook you bought. But also when you go to the cloud, the ARM architectures, we will provide Docker images to so that you are able to develop on these architectures. with that said, that was the slides I prepared. And let's go back to the audience tool. Let's see if there are some questions. Or Mauritius, do you collect questions?
I have no questions here in my chat. Please put your questions in the chat. Pode ser em português também, que eu vou dar aqui meu inglês não é muito perfeito, né? Mas vou tentar aqui traduzir. Então, coloquem suas perguntas no chat. Eu tenho algumas aqui. Mas, Tobias, do you have any questions on your link?
It seems that I used it for the first time and directly went wrong.
The question's closed. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry for that one.
Alguém tem uma questão aqui? No público? Vamos lá. Tobias, so nice to see. Okay, here. Is it possible to try Camunda 8.1 before the release?
Before the minor release, most likely.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
There should be alpha versions for self-managed you can try.
Not in the cloud. On-premise.
No, on-premise, exactly. Yeah. Because otherwise it would be very difficult for us to maintain another environment. But self-managed, it should be possible.
Probably we can change something on the YAM file and get the new versions or not in production versions, probably, no? To just try. I don't know.
Could work.
Yeah, could. Okay, self-managed is good. Thank you, Daniel. More questions, please. More questions. I have questions here. Please, this is so nice to see your presentation with a roadmap for C7. This is so important to have 5 years. Now, you talking directly from Berlin to our community here in Brazil. Lots of people using Camunda 7. And what do you suggest to migrate from C7 to C8? We have some steps for this, or you can share with us some experiences with this, please?
I think the big question for you most likely is when to migrate and how. And there are certain things to consider. Or we're talking about how to migrate. Like one is like which environment you want to migrate to. And we do have some nice blog entries if you're following our Camunda blog. Let me open that in a second. So there's, for example, if you're already using Camunda 7, this is a blog entry I would recommend to read for you, right? So the question is, where are you going? Are you going self-managed? Are you going SaaS? What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? SaaS, of course. We believe SaaS is the future because what do you want? Do you want to operate software or do you want to use it? At the end, you want to use it. And of course, there are some things you have to consider, but we believe that's the future. For me, there's always this comparison between C7 and C8. C7 for me is the currently used combustion engines, right? They are everywhere. But we see there's e-mobility coming around the corner. And e-mobility, everyone loves the cars. They're accelerating fast. If you have the right infrastructure, you would nowadays buy or use an electronic vehicle. And so it is for me with C8. So that is a nice blog article you can read. How can I send something to the chat?
Very nice, very nice. A clear understanding. How can you have some components in production or development, and then that's a good, clear understand. Well, we have a question for you, Tobias. Is it a strategy for Camunda to be cloud only, like SAS? Is there an intention to end on premises?
No, not at all. We clearly do a two strategy, two product, two distributions. That's most likely the right word, like self-managed and SaaS. Because we see a lot of customers still want to operate the software on their own. We believe the future will be SaaS, but there's too many customers still have the knowledge and the capabilities to run it. So we will have both options.
Nice. We have a lot of implementations here with ZB in embedded engine. Marco Lopes. Oh, your colleague. Marco Lopes answering your question, complementing your question. In Portuguese. No, your trial alpha version cluster. Yeah. You can test this on alpha free. That's nice. Thank you so much, Marco. O Marco foi quem palestrou na última vez lá em São Paulo, né? E falou sobre o Camunda. Obrigado, Marco.
And then just one other tip to your first question is there's a second blog article I shared now is what to do when you can't quickly migrate to Camunda 8. This is, in my opinion, also a must read to distinguish how and when to migrate to Camunda 8.
Nice.
These two blog articles, if you know them by heart, you know what to do.
Okay. So clear. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the information, Marco Lopes. Daniel, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you very much, Tobias. You rocks here. Your first presentation for Brazilian community, our ecosystem here in Brazil. Thank you so much. I can switch now to Maria. I can't see Maria. Maria, are you there? Hello, Maria. Yeah, Maria. I will put you here. Thank you, Tobias. I will see you in person, probably in Berlin or not. Thank you. Bye.
Looking forward. Thanks for the time. Bye.
Bye.